So basically, the recordings of my attorney, employer, ex-boyfriend who swore me in and immunized me and launched a mandatory criminal investigation into child sex trafficking, child abuse. It falls under domestic violence and healthcare fraud, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a form of human trafficking by Big Pharma and the healthcare establishment. Darla Munis-Otoloi, the former neighbor who's now at Homeland Security, and Virginia G. Piper and her many cronies that she hired on at DHS in Arizona, they're blaming both parents. They're basically, the recordings of those three particular federal investigators are on record trying to convince me that my parents, I'm the victim of child pornography, child sex trafficking by my drug trafficking parents. Now, we were broke. My parents did not traffic drugs. I was abused in many ways as a child, autistic child who, most autistics have difficulty communicating in a linear manner, especially about social dynamics that we just don't care about. And it took many, many years of my mother having me communicate via a typewriter or a word processor on a computer. And my father, who's a strategist, explained to me governing dynamics. And he had to start, I was picking up his special skills anyway and pulling psyops on the teachers and kids at school. And they're like, where'd she learn to do that? So Dad had to start training me. So eventually I was able to let him know that my mother was lying on me to him and getting him to punish me. And back then in the early 70s was corporal punishment. So I got hit on the butt or grounded or whatever for crap I didn't do. And that goes on today with her new husband. He came in, I stayed with her after I left fled Chad's for my life. He said if I left him, his powerful government friends would screw F with my life in ways I couldn't imagine and kill me. And that's exactly what they're doing. And they are also basically what these three powerful federal abusers are doing. Darla, I have a personal history with all the way back to childhood. The Goldwaters are, of course, part of Epstein's handlers that used him as oligarchs to control the markets and the government and the oversight and the politicians and the police. And then Chad's, of course, a Fed in many ways, a police, cop, law enforcement, whatever. They're exploiting my mother's abusive behavior and that of her family, who were part of her sister and brother, Mary and Bob Green, and many of their cousins and brothers and sisters throughout Arkansas and Missouri were trafficking the drugs, being flown in for the Iran-Contras under then Arkansas Governor and Attorney General at one point, Bill Clinton. The family owns, I believe, an entire Alberta mountain in the Ozark Mountains in Oxley, Arkansas, which is right outside of Leslie, which is about 2 hours from Hot Springs, where Bill Clinton is a notorious descendant, and his uncle was part of the mafia, and there was all kinds of stuff going on there, Whitewater and all kinds of, it wasn't just Iran-Contras. And that in many of those parties on private property, whether it was in Arkansas or my mother's sister's private property as a registered nurse for the predatory healthcare establishment at the University of Missouri and Barnes Jewish Christian, they basically pimped me out to predators. Many types of licensed professionals, doctors, teachers, professors, whoever, social work, whatever, police, lawyers, judges, anybody. And then they got paid in various kickbacks, good jobs, housing loans, all kinds of stuff. And then, because my father's Native American and my mother's family's Klan, and I'm a mongrel, it was all put off on my father because he would not participate in it. In fact, the retaliation against him for refusing to participate in it as a militant, because he knew both sides of the government, everybody in the government was corrupt. He knew the Kennedys were corrupt. He knew whoever killed them was corrupt and that they just made an example out of the Kennedys. And so he didn't trust anybody, and he wasn't going to get, he already knew that, as a criminal investigator for the military, he could do stuff as part of his cover to infiltrate as a deep cover operator, but that's not what they were doing. They were trying to set him up to damage his credibility and offset their criminal liability onto him. And they're still doing it. It's going on. And I actually just got all of the local, I ran a PSYOP on all of the local charities and the oversight people and convinced them that if I didn't get victim services in a hotel room during this cold weather with the stage 4 cancer, I would get on a bus to Georgia. And so my father could depose me and come up here and lock them all up. And he doesn't need me to come down there. He's already got people here. He's been helping with this investigation. And that's pretty obvious by the way they've handled it. I'm like, they're running this investigation. They're letting my father advise them, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they're doing. So anyway, I had to be very convincing. I know they're all watching my social media, so I put on some real good theatrics of my own. And the last couple weekends when they had the Miller Center open and we had most of the suspects there, the director of the pods, Burlington Housing Trust, many people from CVOEO, my cousin, Mary Green's daughter, Mary Green, it was her property where her and her husband were taking kickbacks, and a lot of it was drugs to fund his drug and alcohol addiction and his expensive taste in, sports. He had to have season tickets to this and that at 20 and 30, 15, 20 grand a year. And his big lavish parties and keggers and whatever else. So she's now, and her daughter Meredith, my cousin, wasn't even born yet. So they've apparently given Meredith some lucrative job at some sort of mental health organization that she's in various text messages telling me she's a victim's advocate. God help them. She's also, I got many confessions out of her that, this is our family history. She even admitted that her brother died of a fentanyl overdose because of this crap. My cousin Regina died as a result of their involvement in the drug trafficking. And they had her out here trying to handle me. And she was pretty damn bold and arrogant. And I kept warning her, I'm not the fucking one. And she didn't want to listen. So, basically, I got them all to admit that they are murdering me to smear my father. And they're murdering me through victim tampering, evidence tampering, falsified records, same difference. They're frauds. To kill me, to basically smear my father as a military JAG criminal investigator, whatever he is. The VA hospital can't even see what he is. I found that out in Phoenix at the VA hospital. And then they basically got him to, quote, admit to watching my social media, and then they quoted it, and I came up with some BS story that, they're all victims. They were threatened by judges and police and high-ranking military and federal agents. And boy, they thought, oh, yeah, that's it, that works. And I had them convinced and even got them to try to get me they referred me over to Feeding Chittenden, and we'll buy the ticket to get you, which they know that's not what they're supposed to do. And then to make sure to, coerce me into going ahead and getting that ticket, they're making sure I'm still sleeping outside in the snow with stage 4 cancer and lungs trying to collapse because both lungs are full of multiple metastases, both kidneys, renal failure, that has caused cardiac arrest, for which I have nitroglycerin. Of course, I don't have it now. They made sure when they no trespassed me from a public park for a structure there's been a structure there for 4 years. That was retaliation, along with the sham malicious restraining order. That was retaliation for basically getting confessions out of Becky Burrell and Autumn Caton, whose name I didn't even know. So I'm really hard pressed to think this judge isn't corrupt. I mean, there's no way I could stalk her. I didn't know her name, don't know where she lives. Had her phone number. You don't see me texting her. She always initiated the text. I warned them repeatedly to stay the hell away from me. And when I reinforced that warning on a bus one night, next thing I know, I have one of her parents texting me. How did her parent get my private phone number if you're not working with law enforcement and people with sophisticated surveillance capabilities? And then, of course, and here's the thing. Her parent texted me, first tried to call me. I didn't answer it. I went ahead and I was hoping. I was rattling their cages. I was trying to get a response out of them. When they crash out and rage out, that's indicative. They usually say a whole lot of stupid crap that implicates themselves, and that's exactly what they did. My daughter's no informant. I never called her an informant. I said she was an agent of police. And the lieutenant who interviewed me at the sheriff's department for about an hour and a half said, yeah, if you're if you're doing stuff on behalf of police, you're a cop. Whether you're a licensed peace officer or you're paid from the treasury or an official city or county or state employee is irrelevant. If police are having you do stuff, you're a cop. I can record you, and when you're doing stuff illegal without a proper warrant based on falsified records, and you're doing it on behalf of my ex-boyfriend and old childhood neighbor Darla Munoz, whose father was a drug mule and who also muled in abducted children to these powerful pedos involved in Iran-Contra with Epstein and Trump and Bill Clinton and whoever else, then that's what you are. You're an agent. So I always refer to them as agents. Oh, then Becky Burrell, start calling her out. She responds on my social media, I'm not a spy. Who said you were a spy? So their guilty conscience basically told on themselves. And they basically realized, since they're both military dependents and said they have military in their family who's apparently shilling for the Weinbergers and the Goldwaters, who are also high-ranking military, specifically Virginia G. Piper, a.k.a. Peggy Goldwater, a.k.a. Carol McCain, John McCain's first wife, Navy Special Forces instructor, who's in town. She's on video at Green Mountain Transit. She's on security video at the bus, and Hannaford stalking me. She came in from Arizona to handle me. That's when they really blew up and got stupid.